All right, y'all. Welcome to another episode of the Cultural Illiteracy Podcast. We on episode 4, and I have my brother Wes with me. You can go ahead and introduce yourself and tell them about what you do.
Yep, I'm Wesleyon Zollicoffer. I run R2O Life. R2O Life trains men and women to harness the power, their God-given power that's already inside of them, so that they can rise to the occasion and fulfill their purpose. And we do this through mental, physical, and spiritual coaching.
Mm. Mental, physical, and spiritual coaching.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go into that. The part that's going to be the most interesting to me is the spiritual part. So
Yeah.
tell me what that looks like.
So I'm a man of faith. I have a Christian background, but through my experience, I realized it's really about connecting with God. So I connect with God. What's my basis of my business is Romans 12:1 and 2, which I don't think you need to be of Christian faith to believe in it.
Mm-hmm.
It says to use your body as a living sacrifice. This is true worship. So I realized that my worship is not really about going to church, but going to the gym. And so that's how I connect with God. When I work out, when I'm stretching, when it's really hard, that's when I'm getting into prayer. That's when I know that I'm connecting with God. Then the next verse is it says that do not be conformed by the way of the world, thinking how the world thinks about certain things, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to know what is good and God's perfect will is for your life. So those two things help me to understand what my purpose is, because working out with my body helped me to transform my mind, because our mind is neuroplastic, you know what I mean? So it changes its form. So the things that I would normally learn out in a classroom or in my study, I take it to the gym with me. When I'm doing hard stuff in the gym, it helps me to expand my mind to take in that new information or to shed some lies by doing that hard stuff. Then that also connects me more with God, not just in the moment, but to fulfill my purpose.
Glad I reached out because that sounded very inspiring and interesting. Yeah, I seen one of your videos. I don't remember even exactly what you said, but I was like, okay, I could see he's on something. I think the world needs to hear more of what he got to say. Um, so that's why I brought him on here. And it sounds like, so is there like a story? Like, how'd you even discover this? Like, how'd you just discover
So
it?
this is my life story, really. Um, when I was 8 years old, I was diagnosed with a rare disease called Pucci-Eggers. My mom, she had the same thing, and she passed at 45. And since the age of 8, I had over 30 something operations, cut
Wow.
open, um, colonoscopies, all that stuff since the age of 8, like big time stuff that happened to me. And then when I turned 21, my mom died shortly after that. And so I was grieving like hell. I went to Battlerock back when it was open and got into the personal training degree. And I read that exercise and nutrition helps you to stop cancer, help you to fight cancer. I'm just thinking, well, my mom knew this information, how would this help her? But then, like a fool, I took a life expectancy test. And because my mom had cancer, my dad had cancer, and all of the things I've already been through, it gave me the age of 30. I was 21. So
I can only imagine what
man,
that felt like.
my anxiety was on high, and I was trying to do everything to try to like leave a legacy. I got into personal development. I got into network marketing, speaking. I was just bouncing, trying to
Yeah.
see how I can make the most amount of money as quickly as possible. But I was in the program though. I was training, and that's actually, I went from a completely different lifestyle. But in this program, I saw physically, oh, this is changing my mind. I'm starting to think differently. I'm starting to talk differently. I'm hanging out with different people. So like, ooh. But really, I tried all these things separately. I never combined them. So when my son died in 2023,
Oh, sorry to hear
Yeah, he has the same disease I had, and he was he got found out at 15 months. You know, and I tried different businesses before. I have feeding royals, in-home dining experiences. Because I'm also a chef. Because like I said, I've
Yeah,
done it
yeah,
all.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but when he passed and I went back to work, work wasn't the same. You know, like showing up wasn't the same, and this always been on my heart, but not with the clarity and the passion and understanding that I have now. You know, and so I'm like, you know what? God really helped me to excel, but I also been really good with fitness and nutrition. But my mind had to completely change as well. I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't have the slavery mindset anymore, or even the religious mindset. You know, where being oppressed religiously.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, how can I combine all these things? And R2O, actually, I had that name for a few years, but now it's like really coming together and coming into fruition, where it's uniquely me taking all of my past experience, even my inspirational from like our civil rights leaders or Nipsey or Tupac, so.
Mm-hmm. I got like 30,000 questions.
Yep.
Wow. First, what's R2O stand for exactly? Or what's that mean?
Rise to the occasion.
Rise to the occasion. That's
Hmm.
dope. Um, wow. So the most fascinating part of your story to me is when you said you took the life expectancy test, and then you said like a fool, and I can appreciate why you said
Hmm.
that. But what if you kind of felt like you had a fire under your ass, so you had to really start living at that point? Like it almost makes me wonder: should we all? Because a lot of us we live life like we just got forever,
Hmm.
and a lot of us live high risk lifestyles
Hmm.
where we may not be here in the next decade.
Hmm.
I wonder what would life look like if we all had that urgency. Like, do you kind of look at that in hindsight as a blessing that you did that? Or how do you feel about that today?
Well, it did increase my urgency, like you said, but then it started turning into anxiety.
Mm.
So it actually turned into a bad thing. At first, it was good because I was going down a completely wrong path. So that changed me, and I did a 180 very, very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But after I got married and started having kids, that urgency just turned into anxiety and worry. And I
Mm.
started to try to edit everything in my life and try to control everything, this piece. And excuse me, I was messing up relationships.
Mm.
If they didn't fit into my vision, my plan, they wasn't with it, then I'm like, okay, they ain't with me then.
Yeah.
I got to move on. But with the understanding that I have, knowing that, well, first of all, I only have today.
Correct.
Tomorrow is not promised to me. Yesterday is already
Yeah.
gone. But what can I be obedient to today that will impact my tomorrow if I make it there?
Mm.
So that now that's where I live by. Not even being overly concerned with how much I get done in a day.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think as Black people too, like with capitalism, we can get stuck in that. But it's like, no, what's the best thing? What's my best next move?
Mm.
And even if that's just one thing, that's going to set me up instead of doing 10 things that's minor.
What's like your, I guess, like compass for determining the best thing for the day?
So what actually helped me, because I was diagnosed with bipolar a few years ago, and I know what triggered that is because I had so much in my mind, and I was constantly thinking and self-editing, and actually therapy, and then Chat GBT. For real, like I'm just talking all my ideas I had in my head for all these years, and I had to go up to premium because I'm like the basic one they
The
give you
20 or the
unlimited.
$200 one?
Oh, 20
The
then,
20.
and
Yeah.
then
Okay.
maybe not the premium then.
Yeah.
I'm on the
Oh,
basic.
they just added that, and
Okay.
they ain't even it ain't even all that from what I hear. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, I
I
got the
ain't,
premium too though. So
yeah, yeah. So I'm like, so I'd say all of my ideas, and then it just give me a whole bunch of things. But if I'm doing any of those things, then I'm going in the right direction.
Mm.
You
Have
know,
you heard of DeepSeek?
I've heard of it only one time through Instagram, but
Yeah,
haven't
you can deal with
looked
it.
into it.
The most fascinating part about Deep, because it's just like ChatGPT. You know, China, they
Hmm.
always figuring out how to do stuff with a low. Um, but it's you see. it's thought process in real time. So you'll ask it a question, and you'll tell it something, and it'll be like, the user asked me this, so maybe I should do it like this. But if they think that, then this. Well, maybe if I do this, blah blah blah, and then it'll give you the answer
Hmm.
after you see its thought process. To me, that's fascinating.
Does it keep track of your previous conversations
It's just
too?
like
Oh, just
ChatGPT. It's
okay.
it's as good, and in some areas, it's even better.
Hmm.
And that's why the stock market fell the other day because OpenAI and them. I don't know the exact name of the unit, but
Hmm.
whatever it is, they spend over 100 million per whatever this unit is,
Hmm.
and China's doing it for 6 million.
Hmm.
So the market is like, y'all companies really worth this much? Because China just did it for this much, and that's why the stock market fell. But anyway,
Hmm.
something to check out maybe later on.
Yeah, I'm always. I mean,
Yeah.
I was against technology, but then I start getting on that boy. I'm like, I should have been on this.
Yeah, ChatGPT is that whole thing
Yeah.
is crazy.
Yeah.
You say you was diagnosed with bipolar. Is
Hmm.
it? I don't know too much about it,
Yeah.
even though sometimes I feel like I got it, but
Hmm.
I feel like I got what I would call the happy kind.
Hmm.
You know how, like, I guess there's one where maybe you act more negative, and then
Hmm.
but then there's some, like, how they say with Kanye when he acts, though they call it manic,
Hmm.
but it's like they just super high off life.
Hmm.
I feel like I got a mild version of that.
Oh, okay.
Is it which one is
I
it
would
for you?
say that with unprocessed grief, I was depressed a lot.
Okay.
So, and then they very hypercritical of myself, never good enough, felt good enough. But then I would get in the manic where I can take over the world, like Kanye, I'm doing,
Mm,
but I'm not as good as Kanye. I
yeah.
ain't got as much resources, but I think that I can start 5 businesses at
Yeah.
one
Okay. Yeah.
time.
That's
You know
yeah.
what I mean? I'm getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning, doing all
Mm-hmm.
this stuff. You know what I mean? So, um, and then people just couldn't know who they was gonna get.
Let me ask. So I wanna, cause I mean I've never been diagnosed, and
Hmm.
I clearly, I mean, I don't want to get diagnosed if I do got it.
Hmm.
How do you feel having that? Like, because when you get to me, when I feel like if it's supposed to be bad, then I don't want to be good. Do you feel the same with that, or do you feel like it still hinders you?
No, actually, because it was hindering me a lot. Because when I got manic, then I would spend all my money, and I didn't
Mm,
really know what was going on. When I would go to the therapist at first, I'll be outsmarting them. They'd be telling me I'm teaching them something. Like, I ain't trying to teach you nothing.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
trying to be taught like what's going on. But I realized that I would go in a manic stage, instead of in that depressed stage and being honest. So when I went in there and my therapist helped me to see my symptoms. And the more I recognize my symptoms, the more I can quickly figure out what my triggers are and alleviate them, or say, okay, I just got triggered. If I'm already in the symptom phase I'm in, let me figure out a way to get back out of it instead of go and dive deep into it, because I would just completely have to start all over again. You know what I mean? I make a crazy mistake, you know what I mean, that something is like, what you doing? What are you doing? But with therapy, it just helped me to recognize my symptoms. If you're doing all good stuff, if you down sometimes and then you kill the rest of the world, your task list another day, that's a totally different thing. But when you're doing stuff that's self-destructive or hurting other people, then you might need help.
So, what are some symptoms and triggers?
So for me, my symptoms is spending money.
That's when you're in manic mode.
Yeah, when I'm in manic mode. When I'm in depressed mode, then I'm just want to be in the house all day, not do anything, or like constantly doing self-help, constantly trying to fix myself. Well, man, I was that conversation good? How they responded. Then I'm going back in my past, because I think your depression comes when you overanalyze your past, and anxiety comes when you overthink your future.
Future.
So like I'm seeing that, and then for manic, then I was a lady man my whole life. You know what I mean? My number one, I wanted to be a P. You know what I mean? So that's what was my biggest goal. I got to be a P. So when I'm manic, I'm like really living in that,
Mm.
trying to talk to all the baddies. You know what I mean? So I had to recognize that. And then when I'm depressed, I'm not good enough. You know what I mean? I can't get nobody. Like, even though I got a wife, like, do she even like me?
Mm. What's some triggers you identify? Is it different triggers for depressed and manic, or like how does it?
So I realized, especially lately, if I'm doing too much, like waking up too early, too often, and not really getting any naps or sleep, that can trigger me into mania, because rest is very important for your
Mm-hmm.
brain.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if I start comparing myself, that triggers me into depression.
Mm. Okay. Anything that those like the main triggers you think you got for that?
Um, and then
Is these common or just individual to you, or do you know?
Well, I think it's pretty common when I talk to my therapist, and then when I look at different things, they get anxiety, like I said, from thinking about the future too much. So when I'm thinking about tomorrow, or if I'm thinking about next week, I get super anxious. But it starts off, it doesn't sound like it's anxious. It sounds like you're planning. It sounds like you just, being strategic, but it's really like then you start changing the plan, and you start changing that plan, and you're
Mm.
thinking about every single detail, how they're going to respond to that, how they're going to respond to this, how should I even say this. Then that starts to turn for me to anxiety. And then for depression, I think that's pretty common when you start to regrets or have shame or guilt from your past. At least that's what me and my therapist talked about.
Mm. And how long
Hmm.
you been in therapy?
About 4 years.
Same therapist?
Yep. And
You
I've tried different ones too.
and then you settled on that one, or
Hmm.
okay? What did? I never been well, I'm lying. I did do a couples version once, but I never
Hmm.
had individual. What what drove you there? What made you say, "Let me do this therapy thing"? Especially because it wasn't always a popular
Yeah.
choice.
Well, I made like one of the dumbest mistakes, like while I was at work on some and I knew when I was doing it that it was wrong, but I was like, something is still calling out, like us, like I need to do this though. Like I still want to make this mistake, even though I know it's self destructive.
Mm,
It was like a cry out for help. Like maybe I can get some help, like
mm,
with this, you know. And I was like, you know what? And I was at work and I was struggling. People kept having to talk to me. Like I said, like I wanted to be at peace. So, you know what I mean? I'm just like, and I was like, this time I'm going to be honest when I go to the therapist. I'm not going to talk to him like I'm in my high stage or like I'm super low. I'm going to just be completely honest about what's going on in my head.
mm,
And from there, I got set up with a pretty cool therapist, which I was up and back and forth with, because he's not black. So I was like, man, I need a black. But then I had to talk to a few black people, and I'm like, this is not really it. It's not really connecting
mm,
because I kind of feel like I have to filter. I got to filter anyway, but like I feel like sometimes I got to filter even more to the black voice instead of being completely honest. And then I'm
mm,
already seeing you out in public. You know what I mean? It's
mm,
like I don't want to be seeing you, and my people, whatever. My therapist, I ain't never seen him a day in my life
mm.
outside of our therapy. So what stays with him is with him. I mean, they gotta keep their mouth quiet
Yeah, they
anyway.
supposed to.
But
Yeah, but they still be talking, brother, on the
yeah,
low. But as long as they don't get back to you.
yeah. I don't know none of his friends.
Mm.
The people I know a lot of they people. So
Would you advise that advice in general, like to kind of find somebody not even necessarily from your culture, so you could kind of get all your shit off?
I think it depends. Cause my wife, she had a black lady, and I feel like that was very beneficial for her. But she also had a white lady too that gave her good perspective. I just think it depends on how rounded you want your perspective to be, because you already have your perspective as a person of color or whatever. But then to bounce your ideas off of somebody that's not in your culture, it just might help you to see the other side. That's why I love debates, and the people
Mm-hmm.
who are really great at debates know
Mm-hmm.
the position of the other side, so they can have a
Right,
well-rounded
right.
perspective. So that's what I think.
Okay. Okay, let's kind of get into the R2O, the rise to the occasion. How'd that name even come about?
So my first name for it was Start From Scratch, because I felt like I just kept starting over. All
Mm,
the things that in my life, I just kept starting over. But I'm a guy that just pay attention to signs. It could be in movies, it could be on TVs, and everything I kept looking at, just random conversations, everything kept saying, "Rise to the occasion, rise to the occasion,"
mm,
and that's how I feel like God speaks to me, just through different signs and conversation. And so I was like, "Rise to the occasion." But how I came up with R2O is I'm kind of a nerd at heart. So I love the periodic table. So H2O. So I'm thinking R2O. So that's,
Got you.
and I feel like in every part of my life, I wasn't starting over. I had to rise up.
Nice. And so like, what is it? So you do coaching to be like one-on-one or group coaching or
I do both.
both?
Yep.
Do you have like a moment in your coaching where it kind of like hits you like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be doing this, so I'm really good at this? You have like a story like that?
Yeah. So I've been training one of my good friends in the last month or so, and well, I've been training more people, but with him in particular, I haven't just been working them out. I've been even taking them through, we call like a sunrise mindset training. So we went through, like I had them the first thing do a mindset map. Have you heard of that? A mind map?
Mm-hmm.
So I had him do that and kind of identify some areas in his own life, because I realized that I can't give you the answers.
Yeah.
You already know them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And after we get done with these sessions and then my training, I've been training for so long, so workouts come to me easy. But when he said the mindset training told him some stuff and taught him stuff that he learned in at work, he do it for work, but he don't do it for his life. That was like, oh, I'm on to something.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I feel you on that because similar to you, I started just personal training like everybody else, and it was just frustrating to me that I couldn't get everybody to stick to the script. And long story short, I started to understand and discover how important the psychology piece was. And I learned some things, and I said, okay, this next session I do with this person, and this was the first time we ain't known each other from a can of paint, just found me on Instagram. And the impact I had on her, it was so profound and crazy. So now I just 100% focus. I don't even do the exercise shit no more. It's just 100% talking. So I feel you on that because it is very powerful.
Yeah.
Very powerful, life-changing shit.
How long you been doing that for?
About just like a year and a half. Has it been a year now? Maybe a year, in between a year and a half now.
Is that the same time you was is that paired with your vegan coaching?
Yeah, so and that's another thing too. I started off just telling everybody to be a vegan because I figured that's the work for me. That's the way. And then I'm always trying to challenge my belief and challenge myself. Like, it's not the diet; it's something else. Because it's been people who just eat only meat and they get similar results. So what do we have in common? And that, yeah. So I remember trying to turn everybody vegan because I thought that was the way. But then it was like I seen people just only eating meat or going Mediterranean. The diet ain't it. It's something else. And we just all had a similar mindset in our approach to changing our life. So I said, let me focus on that. But yeah, so like I started with that years ago, and it turned into like more of a mindset thing about a year and some change ago.
How'd that going?
It's going great. I'm actually seeing results, and people's lives is changing. Tears being shed. Like it's way. I mean, it's nice to hear somebody say, "Oh man, I lost 15 pounds." That's cool, but it's a different type of high I get when like you like shatter some limiting belief they had or something like that. It's just different.
I think it's different for them too, because you could lose the weight and then gain it back.
Exactly.
It's kind of hard to go back to that same mindset when you extremely like healed from it.
Yeah, and another reason is I see it because the principles they learn with the mindset, you can apply it to any area of your life. Like people love lives that improve, people that making more money off their bit. Like one dude I helped, we only worked together for 3 weeks. In the 3 weeks, he lost 12 pounds. He got off his blood pressure medicine. He got the love of his life. And he made as much in his business in that 3 weeks than he made for the whole year up until he met me. And it was July when we worked together.
Yeah.
Like, this is way higher level.
Yeah.
Like this
most definitely.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, rise to the occasion. So you got like I kind of looking at your page a little bit. You got like an actual gym or?
So I train at the Better Together campus.
Okay, and where's that?
That's off of 45th and Bedford, the old Turning Point campus.
Okay.
Yep.
I grew up around there. Okay.
Yep. So I trained there. But I've been in the industry since 2010, 2009. So I've been doing it for a long time. You ain't new to
this. You true to this.
Yeah. But when I look at, I think our past like shows us like what we be doing. I remember getting up early as hell in the morning just to go run and
Mm.
shoot 100 shots.
Mm.
I ain't never make a team, but I
Mm.
was doing it.
I can somewhat relate. I wasn't that dedicated, but I feel you. Man.
Yep. So I was like, this is this, and it comes so easy. It's just like the other things is like I just had to try so hard, you know what I mean? And even with, like you said, I relate with the you could train and they can lose the weight, but it's like, but you still think the same way though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like I want this. That's why it's R2O life. I want this to be your whole life.
Yeah.
And that's why I believe that it will help us, especially in times like this, when people are stressed out by the current, situation that's going on. Is like, you need your body and your mind right so you can rise up, so
Mm-hmm.
you cannot be crushed by the pressure, but you can rise to it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
You mentioned earlier how like it's all for like the glory of God and like
Hmm.
with your body and your mind. What was it like? Do you remember like was it like a certain workout you was having when it kind of hit you like the real significance of like exercise and how healing it could be, and it's more than just like getting bigger biceps or whatever?
Well, it was a time where I wasn't really going to church like that. And even since then, I'm still like, but when I was just running, and it was actually started with my mind. I would start to meditate, and then I wasn't listening to any music, so I
Mm.
had to think about the thing I just thought about, so the scripture or whatever. So I was having most of my deep thoughts while I was in some kind of physical activity,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, wait a minute. And then one day I was working out in my living room to gospel music, and I used to listen to it in my earpiece, and I was like, wait a minute, I'm connecting more to this than just driving around in it or just being at church.
Mm.
Because usually I feel like churches can be feminized, it's like, it's
Yeah.
even the black church sometimes, it's always catered to the woman,
Mm-hmm.
but man, we're aggressive. We got that warrior in
Right.
us, that dog, and we need to, have some physicality to it. So when I was listening to the gospel music or meditating on the word, I was like, dang, I'm connecting more to this than when I'm just going to church and not being my only source.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned how usually you'd be working out, everything you did it, so you have to think about what you thought about. That that too, I feel that because one exercise sometimes I give my clients, I learned this from another, I guess he's a psychologist or whatever. If you just have them be bored on purpose or just like
Hmm.
stare at a blank wall, because then
Hmm.
you can't run. I think that's why, like sometimes when prisoners and they get sent to the hole, a lot of times they may come out transformed if they
Hmm.
survive their own
Hmm.
traumas. There's really something like it makes you wonder, like all the distractions we got, social media, TV, food. Like if
Hmm.
some of us just sit and process our thoughts,
Hmm.
just sit and let it process. Yeah. So.
I tell my clients, most of my workouts, personally and for my clients, we don't have no music.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to know what's going through your head during
Yeah.
this time. Don't let Nipsey
Yeah,
motivate
yeah,
you.
yeah,
He's
yeah.
motivating, but like, no, have
Find it
yourself
within
motivate.
yourself. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And if those voices is telling you stop and quit, you need to shut them up.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really about training your inside voice as well.
Yeah, very powerful. What would you? Okay, so what are two? Like, what's like your? I guess like the main principles of like what that stands for. Like, what's y'all? And you might already have it on your website or
Mhm.
something. Like, what's like the mission statement and the philosophies y'all stand by?
So yeah, it's to help individuals to harness the power that's already within them through mental, physical, and spiritual coaching so that they can be prepared to fulfill their purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So that looks like, so obviously the personal training, we already do that. Most people already work out, they go to a trainer just to work out. But
Mm-hmm.
on top of that, we start with the mindset training. Like, let's identify your limiting beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
Not me tell you, I believe you already have the answers to the problems that you already have. So let's identify those through some different exercises that I put them through. One of them being the mind map. Um, Today I did this, the people that we look forward to. That's probably the video you see. You saw the people that we inspire or inspired to be, like
Mm-hmm.
some of these attributes is actually already in us.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we could just use it to empower us, but
Yeah.
it's already there. So I use that. And then for the nutrition, I do nutrition coaching. So like you, it's really not about the diet. It's
Mm-hmm.
about being mindful about
Mm-hmm.
how you eat. So I switched from that because I was like, no, just eat this. But I couldn't do it because
Right.
that's not
Right.
how I eat.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So I went to, I'm your guide.
Mm-hmm.
You already know your tour guide in a place you already been.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I treat that.
The tour guide in the
Yep.
place you already been.
And then for the spiritual coaching, this through conversation, I get a verse that I think that might hit home with them
Mm-hmm.
and say, okay, you made it. So it's usually in a 6-week program. And I can either write you a program, you do it on your own. That's what my wife and her friend does. And I check in with them every so often. But they have some mindset stuff, their workout, and the scripture.
Mm-hmm.
And then the people I do in person, it's the same thing, but we're actually talking more often. So when I realized that I did that, like he's saying, like my friend today, he was like, man, you showed me stuff that I ain't never thought about. Like this is changing everything,
Mm-hmm.
in this short amount of time. And that's what R2 is about. It's not about dropping the pounds.
Right. Right.
It's about helping you to be prepared to
Mm-hmm.
fulfill your purpose. Because if you're not fulfilling your purpose, like it don't matter if you lost 20 pounds.
Yep. That's fact. That's powerful. What's because even earlier you mentioned how I think you said something like even if you don't necessarily believe in the Bible, the
Mm-hmm.
scripture still. Because I'm literally that. I wouldn't even say I necessarily subscribe to the Bible,
Mm-hmm.
but I still study it a lot,
Mm-hmm.
probably more than the average Christian.
Mm-hmm.
Because some principles in there they just
Mm-hmm.
work. That just is what it is.
Yep.
So outside of what you already shared with Romans, do you have like a favorite scripture besides that one?
Well, right now I've been since September just meditating on Psalms 23 and just been going through it every day. I just take one line from it, go look at the Hebrew. One morning I did a physical meditation. That's what the Jewish people do, the Hebrews. And so they made you stand up and then reach down, and that's like the flow of water.
Mm,
Um, and that was actually pretty powerful. And then I listened to Still Waters on Spotify
mm,
and just meditate that I'm in a green pasture. Actually, my name Wesleyon, Wesley means West Meadow or pasture.
mm.
So just studying all of that and getting really deep into that. Also, Joshua 1:9, be strong and very courageous or resolved. You know, so there's a few things I read a lot, but those are the three things I'm like really
Most,
focused on.
yeah.
But the reason why I said like it's not really church and everything, because I realized that there's so many, even through history I've learned in different religions, everybody is really got a part of the picture.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
Bible might be a big part, and for a lot of people, but why do these people mention Hercules? Well, in the Bible, it also talks about
Mm,
you might have a different name, but like these people of old, they live
mm.
into 100, 900 years
Yeah,
old.
yeah,
Yeah, you're gonna look like a god to somebody who's living
yeah,
to 60.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So I realized, oh, there's a lot more to it, and religion or denominations can make you feel oppressed because you have to fit in a certain way. Because
Mm,
when I grew up Baptist, but then started going to charismatic. Then I felt like I started to change myself, even though I grew up a completely different way. But when I learned that it's really relationship, and I started studying the word, not just listening to it. And I started studying it as a scholar. I started to find the truth in there, not just based off of my own perspective, but
mm,
what's really going on during the time and what it really meant. And that just changed everything.
mm. Have you ever studied any other religious scripture like the Quran or anything?
I looked into the Quran. So I was for maybe 2 or 3 years, like was trying to like pretty much studying to be like a not evangelist, but a defender of the faith,
Mm,
apologetics.
mm.
So I was looking into all those different things, but it was more from a argumentative standpoint,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know. But since then, I haven't, because I'm like, you know what, I got too much on my mind I won't deny, like, if there's something that somebody says that I know
And
is
it
true,
resonate, then yeah.
then I'm gonna let it be truth. But I was just coming at it from just an argumentative standpoint. But now it's just like, you know what? I'm about to just do what God called me to do with the tool that He gave me.
Yeah. I was pretty much the same way. I think it's actually even a powerful way to start because if you studying from a pure like, in case I got to debate somebody, so I got to really know everything, but
Hmm.
then you study all the things from that way, you kind of like know it all
Hmm.
in and out, and then the truth, the things that you agree on both sides with, is like it's got to be the truth because this is the consistent pattern. So that's
Yeah.
dope.
Hmm.
What you say? Physical meditation. Tell me more about that. I feel like that's a new concept to me. And what's the? You said they do the like the
Yeah,
wave with the
so
water.
one of the things, so for Psalm 23, it had me to reach up, like I was standing up, it had me to reach up and then go down to my toes. And that was like cleansing and like how water flows.
Mm,
And you had to do that multiple times. And then what I've been doing to especially calm my mind is listen to still water. And because we're water, mostly.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I started listening to water to still my rapid thoughts.
Mm,
Excuse me. To still my rapid thoughts. And so sometimes what that looks like is I did the water flow, and then I actually laid down and imagined that I was in pastures
mm,
while I'm listening to the water. And while I'm doing that, he said, I have everything that I need. He take care of all of my cares, cast them on him. So I'm giving him my cares in the moment. Like
mm,
if it's giving me anxiety or rapid waters and that's not
mm.
still, I'm going to give him that. I'm going to give him that. Okay, God, this is you. This is you. So that's what's really been helping me.
Well, where did the physical part come from? Is that something in just the Hebrew culture, or actually from the Bible, or somebody discovered it later
I
on?
read that just in the some some Hebrew website, really, because
Okay.
I was every day I was look up different perspectives on Psalm 23. So I don't just go to, okay, this is what this person
Yeah,
says.
yeah.
No, I'm gonna look at
All
what a
that.
lot of different people say, and
Mm-hmm.
this was the only person that said anything about physical meditation. But in the Hebrew culture, even if you look when they do their studies, when they say tasting, see that the Lord is good, when they teaching that to the kids, they give them honey.
Mm,
Taste and see, taste this,
mm.
that the Lord is good. So I think they've been doing that since the beginning of time. And as far as right now, that's all I know.
Wow, that's powerful. I'm gonna
Hmm.
look more than that myself. Yeah, man. As we close up, is there anything you want to make sure the people know, or anything you got going on, or something you're working on?
Yeah, r2olife.com or find me on Facebook. But really, during this time where it seemed uncertain, we just really need to look at the people that came before us, the Malcolm X, Marcus
Mm-hmm.
Garvey,
Mm-hmm.
W.E.B. Du Bois,
Mm-hmm.
Martin Luther King Jr., our parents, our
Yeah.
grandparents,
Mm-hmm.
people of the way back, and then people future, in our present tense, but then also in our own lives, that we have the power within us, that we are very strong people. Like we come from good stock, and
Mm-hmm.
we have whatever it takes in us to rise to the occasion. And if people need help with that, they can come to me, and they can get some assistance on that. But yeah, that's what I would say.
Sweet, sweet. Are you on
Hmm.
Instagram and stuff too, or
Yep.
just Facebook?
Instagram R2O Life.
R2O Life, no
Yep.
underscores or nothing?
Nope.
Okay, cool. So
Yep.
I'll know that for that. All right, man. It's a very powerful episode. Seems like every episode just keep getting a
Oh,
little.
that's
Y'all
what's
some,
up.
there's some
Well,
dope people
appreciate you
out here,
having me
man.
too. This what's up, and I always enjoy these conversations, especially with black men,
Yeah.
because I don't feel like we get to talk about things that sometimes seem like, you a
But
nerd.
right.
What are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about? Like, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? But I feel like there's more people like us, more black
Mm-hmm.
men like us than not. So
Yeah.
when we can have a space like this that we can actually engage in the things that we thinking in the dark and bring them to the light,
Mm-hmm.
then there's more freedom, not just for us, but for the people's watching. So
Yeah.
appreciate you.
Yeah. Appreciate you,
Yeah,
man.
for
All
sure.
right, man.
For sure.
Cultural illiteracy episode 4. I hope y'all enjoyed. Y'all heard where to find it, man. Till next time. Peace. Yeah, that was dope. That was
Yeah, that
real dope.
was.